Welcome to Fort Ticonderoga. You know, I hadn't been here in a long time, and this is not a federal facility as I was expecting, or I thought I remembered it being federal, but it's not. It's a non-profit, private. Well, it's got an impressive driveway entrance. Yeah, there's Mount Defiance right there. This is the French and Indian War. On early May morning, Ethan Allen and the Green Mountain Boys and Benedict Arnold seized the fort from its surprise defenders in the first American victory of the Revolution. In the winter, most of the fort's cannons were taken to Boston by Colonel Henry Knox and helped General Washington's army drive the British from that city. The American army strengthened its fortifications at Ty, anchored by the fort and Mount Independence. In the fall, a British fleet tried to seize control of Lake Champlain. Arnold's little navy outfitted here at Ty turned them away, keeping the new nation safe for another year. By hauling a cannon up to Mount Defiance, General Burgoyne's great British army forced the Americans to give up the fort, and Colonel John Brown's American force was almost recaptured in September, just before Burgoyne surrendered at Saratoga. The Revolution, the fort and its land were given to Columbia and the Union colleges. In 1820, William Ferris Pell bought the land, built a summer place, preserved the ruins of the fort. Dinner.
Yeah, the midday meal for these sailors and soldiers here. What we'll be putting together are typical sailors' rations for the 18th century. Salted pork, kind of like bacon.
Yeah.
A helping of peas mixed with ship's biscuit, or what you would call hardtack.
Yeah.
And then what we're going to mix with the pork is going to be sauerkraut.
Oh, that sounds great. Can I join you?
Yeah, if you want to.
Now, are you French?
No, we are portraying sailors and Marines, technically, of the British Navy and Army in 1781. They had a large presence on Lake Champlain in 1781, came down here to Ticonderoga. Now, these Marines you see behind me are actually all musicians, but the Marines that they had were actually pulled out of Army service, which is why you see that 29 on their covers, on their hats, denoting the 29th Regiment of Foot that they came from. They're actually pulled from Army service in Canada and put on these provincial Navy ships on Lake Champlain.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Look how they use, I think they use birch baskets filled with dirt. And this would be a mortar. Looks quite European. This would be the barracks. This would be Montcalm. Montcalm congratulating his troops on their victory. This is a British boat rowboat. In 1858, the British Army traveled to Ticonderoga in over 900 flat-bottom boats called battues. These were the troop transports of the 18th century. This would be a troop reloading his gun, I guess. Okay, he's got blankets around his legs.
Recover, ram it. Short, ram it. Return, ram it. Cast, fire lock. With your right hand under your lock. Point, fire lock. 1, 2. Hold your fire lock. 1, 2. With all these steps, count it out with a second's worth of time in between motion. They can efficiently and safely go through that loading process. Now, the same series of steps is broken down for their firing process. First, again, start with the command with your right hand to your fire lock. Hold, fire lock. 1, 2. With your left hand to your fire lock. 1, 2. They all step back and down so they can cock fire lock. 1, 2. Fully cocking their weapons, prepared to present. Each man now takes careful aim on his target. Make no mistake, they're picking out a man-sized target, aiming at a man-down range, not firing blindly. The man in the rear rank, he braces his forearm against the elbow of the man in front of him. That way he knows where each other is for safety's sake, while they still keep their eyes trained on the target, waiting quietly and patiently for the order, fire! Hoping that their charge finally will go off. Take care. Fire! Bring their weapon right back up to the recovered position. Go over and over again. Half cock your fire lock. Shut your hand. Shoulder fire lock. Now that step-by-step procedure is broken down as an exercise. It is what they practice on a daily basis, several hours each day. And that practice, slowly with all the commands called out, creates a muscle memory. It is the foundation they need to know that all those steps practiced over and over again can be called out with one command to climax your load. Now they still go through all those same steps, but this time they do it without hearing the command. It doesn't mean that they go any faster than they would have. It just means they don't need a petty officer or officer calling out all those commands in front of them. And once they are in fact loaded, they snap right back up to the shoulder position. And while this works very well on board their vessels, fighting in close concert with one another, they ultimately land here at Ticonderoga on October 22nd of 1781. What was a tiny deck that they had to operate on becomes a vast expanse of wooded territory around the old ruins of a fort. But their discipline of command and control in tight quarters allows them to apply different tactics now in a loose environment. In fact, as early as 1776, British soldiers in North America are forming at the open order. That's to say 18 inches asunder, an arm's distance in between their files. It allows them now to operate through dense or thick country, allowing these gaps between their files, allows a sergeant or officer to retain the line to have command and control. They can take this one step further into extended order. Now these men take 4 or 5 paces distance in between their files. Once in that position, they take cover behind whatever they're afforded. Might be a rock, a tree, a stump. If none's available, they lay prone down on the ground. Now in this formation, they still maintain a They fire off their first shots, and the man in the front rank, he immediately recovers to the rear. That's to say the man behind him immediately moves on forward, aims his weapon, while the man behind him goes about reloading. And imagine not just 3 men, but 2,000 men operating in this system, keeping a rolling fire down on the enemy. This keeps a consistent rolling fire, but they maintain their line, which allows them to effectively take ground towards the front, pushing back an enemy. It also allows them to give ground and retreat, but doing it together, not in chaos. Now this also allows them to keep up a hot, steady fire over a wider range, not just covering maybe a quarter mile, now up to a mile's distance with just a single regiment. Whatever the case may for a hot firefight that lasts several hours. Just one that's a few minutes. After the final order to cease fire, they reform back at the open order. Let the smoke clear. Now these British, their way of life is they're very free. Now before I let you guys
Look at the dogs. This is a reconstructed fort. Not as it was back then, but a replica. A lot of the cannons were collected all over the Caribbean. It's doggy petting time.